Hello and welcome. There are names in Hollywood that define an entire era, and for a generation, that name was Richard Gere. He was the man with the quiet gaze that could captivate an entire theater, the star of timeless romances like An Officer and a Gentleman, and of course, the unforgettable Pretty Woman. For decades, he was the undisputed gold standard of Hollywood leading men, a symbol of quiet strength and sophisticated charm. And then, it seemed, he vanished. At the very peak of his influence, when his name could still guarantee a box office success, the major roles stopped coming. He stepped away from the red carpets, retreated from the global spotlight, and left millions wondering, why? What could possibly make a star of his magnitude walk away from it all? Was it the fallout from his high-profile marriages? Or was it something far more shocking? A single, courageous sentence spoken on live television that cost him everything. The truth is a complex and deeply emotional story of conviction, sacrifice, and the unexpected search for peace. This is the story of how Richard Gere didn't just disappear, he chose a different path, even when it meant being exiled from the very world that made him a star. Born in 1949 in Philadelphia, Richard Tiffany Gere's early life was the picture of a disciplined, middle-class American upbringing. His family moved to upstate New York, where his father worked as an insurance salesman. Young Richard was not a boisterous child, but a quiet and sensitive soul with a remarkable array of talents. In high school, he excelled at everything he touched: music, gymnastics, and student council. He was a gifted musician, playing the piano, guitar, and trumpet, and even composed music for school productions. His athletic prowess earned him a gymnastics scholarship to the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, where he chose to major in philosophy. But after 2 years, a deeper calling took hold. He made the surprising decision to drop out of college, not for fame or fortune, but to pursue the arts. This was the first of many moments where Richard Gere would follow his own internal compass, regardless of outside expectations. This unique foundation, a philosopher's mind, an athlete's discipline, and a musician's soul, would shape the actor he was destined to become. His career began not on a film set, but on the stage. In 1973, he landed the lead role of Danny Zuko in the London production of Grease, where his natural stage presence was immediately recognized. He continued to hone his craft in theater before his first small but memorable film role in 1977's Looking for Mr. Goodbar. However, it was Terrence Malick's visually stunning 1978 masterpiece, Days of Heaven, that truly announced his arrival. With very little dialogue, Gere's performance was a masterclass in quiet intensity, conveying a world of emotion through his eyes alone. Then came 1980's American Gigolo. The film was controversial, but it cemented his status as a new kind of Hollywood sex symbol, mysterious, intelligent, and subtly tormented. But it was 2 years later, in 1982, that a star officially became a legend. An Officer and a Gentleman transformed his career. His portrayal of Zach Mayo, a troubled but determined officer candidate, was raw and emotionally resonant. The film's iconic final scene, where he carries Deborah Winger from the factory floor, is etched into the memory of moviegoers everywhere. It was a cultural phenomenon, earning 2 Academy Awards and solidifying Gere's place as a premier leading man. And then, he met Julia Roberts. The 1990 film Pretty Woman could have been a simple, forgettable romance, but the astonishing chemistry between Gere and Roberts turned it into a global sensation, earning over $460 million. And in my opinion, this was always the secret to his appeal. While other actors of his generation relied on bravado, Gere possessed an incredible stillness. He allowed his co-stars to shine, reacting with a quiet intensity that made their connection feel real and profound. He sustained this incredible success through the 90s and 2000s with films like Runaway Bride, the Oscar-winning Chicago, for which he won a Golden Globe, and the critically acclaimed drama Arbitrage. He never chased trends or superhero franchises. He simply aged with grace, his performances growing richer and more complex with time. But behind the silver screen success, a deeper, more personal story was unfolding, a lifelong search for a connection that could match the intensity of his inner world. His private life, though often the subject of intense media scrutiny, was marked by a series of quiet, meaningful, and sometimes difficult relationships. His first long-term partner was actress Penelope Milford, with whom he shared 7 years as his career was just beginning to take shape. Later, he was with the Brazilian painter Sylvia Martins for nearly a decade, a period that coincided with his rise to superstardom and, more importantly, his deepening spiritual journey into Buddhism. She was a companion on his travels to Tibet and his meditation retreats, supporting him as he began to ask the profound question, "Who am I without the spotlight?" Of course, his most public relationships are the ones we remember most. In the early 1990s, the world was mesmerized by Hollywood's golden couple, Richard Gere and supermodel Cindy Crawford. He was 39, she was 22. Their meeting at a barbecue sparked a romance that defined an era. They married in a spontaneous Las Vegas ceremony in 1991 using rings made of aluminum foil. But the immense public pressure and the constant, invasive rumors took a toll. The couple even took out a full-page ad in a London newspaper to declare their commitment and deny the relentless gossip. Yet, behind closed doors, they were two people at very different stages of life. As Carrie Lowell later explained, she was still discovering who she was, while he was already a fully formed man. Their marriage ended quietly in 1995, without scandal, but it left an indelible image of two beautiful people who simply couldn't make it work. His next major relationship seemed to be the one that would last forever. He met actress Carrie Lowell in 1995, and for 18 years, they built a life far from the Hollywood glare. They had a son, Homer, and married in 2002, settling on a peaceful farm in upstate New York. It appeared he had finally found the serene, grounded existence he had always sought. But even in quiet lives, people can grow apart. Gere became more introspective, dedicating himself to hours of meditation, while Carrie longed for more social connection. Their separation in 2013 was followed by a surprisingly contentious 3-year legal battle over their $100 million fortune. The gentle Buddhist was photographed in court looking strained, a stark contrast to his public image. It was a painful reminder that even the most private lives can face public turmoil. After a brief, quiet relationship with television host Padma Lakshmi, an unexpected new chapter began. In 2014, he reconnected with Alejandra Silva, a Spanish publicist and activist he had known for years. She was 33 years his junior, and at first, the age gap gave her pause. But Gere was patient. He sent her flowers and handwritten letters, not with grand romantic gestures, but with the quiet assurance that he was ready to walk beside her. They married in 2018 in a private Buddhist ceremony and have since built a new life together, first in New York and now in Spain, raising their 2 young sons. Alejandra, a dedicated humanitarian in her own right, shared his values and his desire for a meaningful life away from the spotlight. It was a surprising and beautiful end to his long search, finding a partner who understood him not as a movie star, but as a man. This brings us to the first major turning point, the moment that began his quiet exile from the Hollywood machine. But Richard Gere was never one to remain silent in the face of conviction. And on one fateful night in 1993, a single unscripted statement would have shocking and long-lasting repercussions that would effectively alter the course of his entire career. While presenting an award at the 65th Academy Awards, broadcast live to 1 billion people, Gere went off script. He used his platform to make an impassioned plea to China's then leader Deng Xiaoping regarding the human rights situation in Tibet. He asked him to withdraw all your troops from Tibet and let those people live freely. In the hall, there was a stunned silence. The show's producer was reportedly furious. The immediate consequence was swift and severe. Richard Gere was banned from attending or presenting at the Oscars for the next 20 years. But the long-term damage was far more devastating. In the years that followed, Hollywood studios grew increasingly dependent on the booming Chinese box office. A star who was persona non grata with the Chinese government became a massive financial liability. As Gere himself later admitted, major studios suddenly stopped calling. No one said it directly, but the message was clear. His outspokenness had made him too risky. He had been unofficially blacklisted. The very industry he had helped define for decades was now quietly closing its doors to him. Another shocking incident occurred in 2007 during a trip to India for an HIV/AIDS awareness event. On stage, he playfully kissed Bollywood actress Shilpa Shetty on the cheek